I will now call to order the Monday, April 30th, 2012 informational meeting of the Sioux Falls City Council. Welcome to all of you here at Carnegie Town Hall, those watching us on CityLink or watching us at siouxfalls.org. We'll begin today's meeting with a staff report by our City Clerk, Lori Hogstead. Lori?
Thank you, Council Chair Aguilar and City Council members. This week will be exciting in our office. We have our renovation going on in the office, and beginning on Wednesday, we will have all of our supplies and furniture moved out. The carpet will be taken out, and from what I understand, the gentleman working with the carpet will stay late Wednesday night to have all the new carpet put into our office. Thursday, we will have our new workstations put back in, our equipment back in, and we will be no more cubicles, no more walls. We'll all have a great vision of the front counter and anyone coming into the office, so much more customer friendly and much more customer service oriented. So we're excited about that. And so that's our big move Wednesday through Friday. And just so that everyone knows, the new calendars reflecting the Tuesday council meetings are now available on Insight as well as on our city's website. And the joint Lincoln and Minnehaha County meetings will be discussed this Wednesday, and Denise Tucker will be attending a meeting on Wednesday in Jeff Schmidt's office with planning to set forth that schedule for our joint city-county meetings. And that is the end of my report.
Any questions for Lori? If not, thank you very much. We'll now go on to City Council open discussion, and I would like to start today. Surprise, surprise. As you all know, with our new structure, we are implementing a council operation committee that will serve an advisory role. They will analyze and make recommendations to the full council regarding operating policies and procedures of the council. They'll provide continuity of council advocacy through the body's normal transition of leadership and membership. They have no power to act on behalf of the City Council without first consulting with the full City Council. They will oversee annual review process for staff members reporting to the committee with input from all council members. They will update and maintain council staff job descriptions. They will establish guidelines in the council procedures manual to help staff members balance the workload created by individual council members, and they have been tasked to meet at least quarterly. In the beginning, they will probably be meeting more often. So the operations committee will be comprised of 4 council members. It shall include the council chair, vice chair, immediate past chair, if available, and 1 other member that will be elected by the full City Council. Why I'm bringing this to you today is that I would like to suggest that the election of the 4th member be held on May 21st at our special meeting to be held at 5 p.m. when we elect our chair and vice chair. Any comments, questions, discussion? Is that okay with all of you? I just need consensus. And yes, we have a lot of people shaking their heads up and down, so I take that as an okay. We do need 6 signatures, and I think that there is a sheet being passed around. Oh, we do have the 6 to call the special meeting on May 21st. Next time around, we will have a change so that will happen on a Tuesday since we've changed our meetings. But right now, it is in charter that the installation of new officers happens the 3rd Wednesday of the month. So we are adhering to that policy. Any other City Council open discussion? Councilor Brown.
I just wanted to mention that next week at 4 o'clock, or tomorrow, Tuesday, tomorrow at 4 o'clock, we'll have the Fiscal Committee meeting, and we have a guest from South Dakota Retirement System here to talk about whether Sioux Falls can become a part of SDRS for future employees that are hired by the city. So that discussion is tomorrow, and we'll also be discussing the CIP surplus, looking at projects and discussing policy long-term for that as well.
Councilor Rolfing.
Yes, urban agriculture, or not urban ag, but the Land Use Committee will be meeting right after this meeting, and we will be discussing the urban agricultural task force, some of the work that they've done. Community Gardens Ordinance will be brought up by Shauna Goldhammer for review and proposed to move forward. And then also the sign code amendments will be brought up. So stick around and enjoy.
Councilor Jameson.
Councilor Karski, myself, Dave Bixler, and Rich Oaksel will be meeting right after this meeting and reviewing the subcommittee that Councilor Brown had assigned us to do to review the capital improvement plan review process in all regards to that $4 million. In essence, did you all receive the email from the city attorney regarding the how that review committee was kind of disbanded? Did you see that? Through an executive order by Mayor Munson some time ago. So there's probably some legal hurdles that we need to get through, and we're going to figure some of those out today and update you as soon as we can. But by all accounts, it should be enforced, should be something we're doing today. It's not actively done today. As I understand it, it should not have been removed with an executive order, nor could it. But we're working on that still, just so you know that process is at hand. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other council open discussion? Councilor Erpenbach.
Could I just ask Councilor Jameson, an executive order trumps ordinance? Is that what we're saying?
Negative.
But that's what happened.
That's what happened.
Okay. Executive order is words from the mayor. Ordinance is law from the city council. Gotcha.
It's a little awkward position, but it's, I'm not sure that we're intending to rehash what happened in the past, but more so just get back on track and figure it out.
Right, good, thank you.
Any other council open discussion? For those of you that are sitting here in Carnegie Town Hall, in the chambers, you probably have noticed a few differences. First of all, you probably can hear us better because we have new mics and new monitors, and we have monitors for those that are in attendance that can watch what's happening. So no matter where you sit, you'll be able to see. We also have new cameras, so if you're watching us on CityLink, you're seeing a new look to our meeting, and so we're very excited about all of the improvements that have been made that will make this a better venue for those that are following our meetings. If there's no other council open discussion, we'll go on to our presentations, and we'll ask Director of Finance, Tracy Turbeck, to give us the March monthly financial report.
Good afternoon. Tracy Turbeck with the Finance Office. I guess I'm something of a guinea pig today here, trying out the new equipment here for the first time. So hopefully everything will go off flawlessly. But I'm here with the March monthly financial update report. It will be brief as usual. We'll cover some of the economic indicators and then touch on kind of a financial snapshot of where we are through the first quarter of 2012. I think you'll find the report generally pretty positive. A lot of the economic indicators that we track are all really heading the way we want them to. So that's certainly good news to report. And the financial results that we're seeing through the first quarter of the year are also very positive. Unemployment for the first 2 months of the year was 4.5% in January, 4.8% in February. The March data did just come out since this presentation was put together, and that did take a downward tick by 0.1%. So The slide next month will show the unemployment down to 4.7% here in the Sioux Falls MSA, which is considerably fairly typical. If you look at the chart, you can see that in the early part of the year, oftentimes it will start out higher than, at least in the past 2 years, than where we trend throughout the year. So that, again, that's I think tracking very favorably, particularly when we compare it to national unemployment figures. So we're certainly very fortunate to see that. A key economic indicator for us locally here, of course, is the activity in construction. One of the ways we measure that is in the value of building permits issued. And this graphic is something new that we've added this year. A little bit different way to look at the building permitting activity, so you can get a comparison of year to year. Actually, 3 years comparison on a year-to-date basis. So you can see the blue and the red bars carry out throughout the entire calendar year. That represents the 2010 and 2011. If you look at that, you'll see that for the first part of last year, we were running behind the prior year. Our 2011 was running behind 2010, and it wasn't until August or so of last year that we actually caught up with where we were in 2010 through August. And then for the rest of the year, we gained on the prior year. And at the top of the chart, for the first 3 months of this year, you can see we started out ahead of both 2010 and 11, and we've continued to see that spread grow. So that's 2012 is starting out at a very quick pace in terms of the building permitting activity. We're at about $61.4 million through March, which is a significant number. That's up over 70% from a year ago. So that's certainly noteworthy and a very favorable number. Of course, the city's bread and butter in many ways comes from the sales tax from our local retail economy. This is a 12-month rolling growth rate. So we look at a 12-month period of time and compare it to the prior 12 months. Through March of 2012, we're seeing that 12-month rolling rate growing at 5.4%. So that's certainly, again, a very favorable number. A year ago, we were running at 4.2%, so we've seen that improve. And just a month ago, that was at 4.7%. So March was certainly a very, very positive month for us. But very good trend for us to see, and we're certainly happy to see that where it is today. Moving on to our snapshot on the general fund revenues and expenditures for the first quarter of the year. Running very much on track with our budget on both revenues and expenditures. The year-to-date revenues are slightly ahead of a year ago, about $1 million ahead of 2011 for the first quarter, and expenditures are slightly below where we were for the first quarter of 2011. And again, running really right on track with our budget for the general fund, which is our primary operating fund. So that's the update for this month. I'd certainly entertain any questions that the council members may have.
Councilor Erpenbach.
Thank you. Thanks, Tracy. I appreciate it. Couple of things. I don't know. Probably shouldn't try to be economists, but I wonder how much of these great numbers on building permits and such are related to the weather.
That's difficult to measure, and I've asked the same question myself. I think certainly earlier in the year, in February, for example, I think that certainly had a positive impact on that. How much of a offset we'll see in the next month or so is really hard to say, but I think it's had some effect. But clearly the numbers are pretty significant. I wouldn't attribute all of the growth that we've seen this first quarter relative to last year to the weather. I think that would be too much. A lot of the increases we're seeing are in the residential housing permit. So that's, again, another very positive, because there's a lot of carryover in other areas of our retail economy when people are building homes.
Well, right, exactly. We know that home construction equals jobs, and so it's hopeful, but I just want to be careful we don't get too excited if it's the weather related. Then if I might, Madam Chair, I have one other question related to the event center. If I look on page 8, the event center bond construction, we've expensed $824,000 and we have another 2.7 million encumbered, which is great. I mean, we know we're working on it. It's about 3% into the project, and we're going to watch those numbers change over time. But is there a way that we could see that in more detail, either in a breakdown in this report, or I even looked on the website. There's an event center page on there that talks about naming and all the stuff, outlines all the debt things. It's really easy to look at. It's easy to understand. I just wonder if there's some way that we can then watch those numbers. Like the $824,000 we've spent. What do we spend it on? Can we get to that depth with a project of this magnitude to help people feel more comfortable with this project?
Certainly, and we've talked about that, incorporating something like that in the future into the regular monthly event center updates, just a kind of a brief project budget update. At this point, there isn't a lot of activity, so it really isn't very remarkable, I guess. But I think that would be a good thing. And if there's some things in particular that you'd like to see included in that, I'd certainly like to hear your ideas as well. But no, I think that's very good.
Well, I imagine $824,000 compared to the $110 million we're going to spend in the end is, probably drilling the holes to find where the rock was or whatever. I mean, it's those sorts of really basic things. I understand it's not a huge number compared to what we're going to spend, but if we had a way, even some kind of chart that just would grow, and if we did it just once a month, so it related to that update, so that you could look at it and say, I don't see any digging out there, but they've spent this much money. What does that mean? And then each month can see, well, now they're digging holes. And digging those holes cost this much this month. Or, just to keep it kind of real for folks, I think would be really helpful.
Yep,
Thank
absolutely. I will say the majority of what has been spent to date would have been on architectural fees, so that's why you don't see dirt moving, but yet we are spending money because the design is still progressing, and as you've heard in the updates, I mean, that's something that will continue for some time. And that's typical, that the bulk of the architectural fees, or in the case of a sewer system, you might see the bulk of the engineering fees on the front end. Design work is where those folks spend their time, and so those dollars will get spent fairly early on in the project, whereas the construction will obviously take a couple of years to spend out.
Great, thanks. If we can follow up on that somehow, that'd be great. Thank you.
Other questions? If there are no further questions, thank you.
Thank you.
Director Turback. Next, we will have a status report presentation of the Sioux Falls Regional Airport, and we'll begin with Director Darren Smith, Director of Community Development.
Good afternoon. It's pretty fancy stuff. Looks good. Overdue, well deserved. Darren Smith, Director of Community Development. I do serve as the city's official liaison to the Airport Authority Board. The presentation today you'll get from Dan Lettler, the General Manager at the airport, as well as Mike Breidenbach, the current Chairman of the Airport Authority Board. And so I'll let them get started in a moment. As a liaison, I do attend the monthly Airport Authority Board meetings. In those months I cannot attend. Someone on my staff, usually from our Economic Development Division, is there, so we try to be at every monthly meeting, and I have regular communication with Dan, as I'm sure he'll attest, maybe too much at times, but we have good communication. Again, I'll let Dan and Mike go into some of the detail, but in short, I would just say as far as I'm concerned, it's been a great last 12 to 18 months with everything going on at the airport, with Frontier Airlines coming in and what that's done with the airfares, at least going to the western cities. The record year of passengers in a number of different categories in 2011. It sounds like 2012 is off to a great start. And then the other improvements, I think something along the lines of more than $20 million in improvements when it's all said and done at the end of this construction season that have taken place over the last couple, 3 years. And any of you who have been to the airport recently have seen those, and it's great. Now, having said that, with some of the numbers and information Dan's going to share, there are growing pains associated with what's going on out there as well, and that's a good thing. It's just a matter of how we deal with those, and I know the Airport Authority, the board, and Dan and his team are tackling those very proactively and aggressively. But I know you'll have questions on some of those things as well, parking and security and those types of things, and they look forward to that and they welcome it. So with that, I'll go ahead and introduce Mike. Are you going to go first? Mike Breidenbach, Chair of the Airport Authority Board.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Chairman and council members, thank you for the opportunity to come before you. Apologize for my dress. I was at a fundraiser earlier, and we did a good job raising funds for a local charity. I've been on the commission 10 years. The authority was put in place in 1986 when the City of Sioux Falls deeded everything to a newly created airport authority created by the state of South Dakota. So who do we report to and how do we function? We just completed our audit. Eide Bailey is our accounting firm. That audit goes to the state of South Dakota. The audit review at the state level. So we do have a responsibility to report everything that we do to the state of South Dakota. We also are accountable to the Federal Aviation Administration. Now, there are a lot of things that happen and will continue to happen through the years, and it's important for you to know we have to abide by what the Federal Aviation says. We receive a certificate from them to stay open. If we don't abide by their safety rules and guidance and so on, one of the things you'll see come up, Dan will talk about it more, are trees at Elmwood, safety zone and so forth. Now, keep in mind, it's not something that we create at the authority and say, you know, we should trim 180 trees at the airport. Those are all mandates by the Federal Aviation Administration. We need to abide by them, or, like I said, we don't operate. So we have a couple main reporting directions we have to go. Dan has many hats. He's dealing with the Federal Aviation Administration. He's dealing with the state of South Dakota. He's dealing with the Transportation Security Administration on security items. So there's a lot of things that we are doing at the airport in a normal course of business. A lot of discussion is held on ticket pricing and low airfares. That's not our primary business. The airline industry was deregulated in 1978 at the federal level. Now, since that time, when I talked to people that were on the commission years ago, the efforts have continually been made by the authority to try to get in front of the airlines, to try to make them aware of the market that we're dealing in, why there might be an opportunity. And all 10 years that I've been on the authority, those efforts have been made. And so I want to assure you that we do everything we can, and we continue to do that as we go forward. It's no secret that with Dan's 20-some years in the airline industry, why he was chosen to guide us for the years ahead at the Airport Authority, along with a lot of other skills and capabilities. So Dan is out there talking to the airlines. We have a consultant that we work with to try to attract airlines. You know, it's a tough business. Warren Buffett made the comment many years ago, the best thing that ever happened from an investment standpoint, if the Wright brothers would not have gotten off the ground, from an investment standpoint. So they have a tough time. So it's not like we can just write a check and say, come on in and, start flying out of here. They have to make a profit. And so, but we try to continually get in front of them to show them why we feel certain routes are beneficial. Dan knows that business, that side of the business better than anything. So those efforts have been done in the past, and they will continue to happen. Two things I'll just touch on, and Dan will talk more on them, is, as I briefly mentioned, was the Elmwood trees. You'll hear about that from people in this community. We're working through that with the Federal Aviation Administration. There are safety requirements that we have to abide by, and we've been in discussions for 2 or 3 years on that safety requirement. And so you will see some things happen on that. You will certainly hear in the months ahead where the airport will be closed. We don't look forward to that. The intersection of the 2 major runways needs repair. Now, when you repair Minnesota Avenue or Cliff Avenue or any street, you can detour people around a block or 2. We can't do that. And when you get to the major intersection with large aircraft, something has to be done at some point. So for several years, we've been working on this. We work with engineers. We look on the fastest way we can do it. We work with contractors. And we have to announce to the airline industry a year in advance, or a little less than a year, that we will be closed on a certain date to facilitate and take care of that major repair that we have to do. We don't like to do it, but I think you can understand safety is very important.
We need to maintain those runways with those heavy aircraft in a very high level as we go forward. We've added a couple fixed base operations out there. Dan can talk about that. The Transportation Security Administration. You know, I know once in a while a letter will come into the city, people get confused because they see Sioux Falls Regional Airport and they think the city controls it. Now, I want to assure you we have always been responsive to issues. Just like you get parking tickets here, we get them out there, we issue them out there. We try to balance that safety level that we have to maintain with the TSA and so forth. We make a commitment to TSA and the Federal Aviation Administration to maintain a certain level of security and safety. We have to do that, or we don't have a license to operate. So we are constantly balancing. When you've got somebody that comes in from Aberdeen or Groton or whatever, they can park in the lobby of their airport. They don't have those problems, and so they don't fully understand. Now, we try to put signage out there, and we do everything we can. We've given back gift certificates, and we try to balance that constantly. So I want to assure you that we are very concerned about goodwill. This is our market. We serve the entire area. We want to have people happy, but we also have to abide by the rules and regulations that govern us. So those are all very important things. I will stay around. I'll be available to answer any questions since I'm the old timer and I am termed out. I'll be done next month. You are all, by the way, invited to our picnic that we have at the end of the year, our year when we transition to new officers and so forth. But at this time, I'd like to just turn over to Dan, and I'll be available for questions after. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Hopefully I don't break your new toy here, but appreciate the opportunity to come down today and give you an update on all the activities we have going on at the airport. You know, first I'll give you a brief rundown of all our traffic that we've had in the last year. I'll talk a little bit about construction, and then we'll move into everybody's favorite topic, air service and airfares. Again, I thank Mike and Darren for the introduction. 2011, really amazing year. We set an all-time record for passenger enplanements, departing passengers. We had over 430,000 passengers fly out of Sioux Falls in 2011, an all-time record. And 860,000 passengers, both inbound and outbound, again, an all-time record, a 21% increase over 2010, and really beating the last mark back in 2007, which was 394,000 enplanements. So an amazing record, and really a rebound from the last 3 years where we've really seen an impact from the recession, really from midsummer 2008, a significant dip 2009, and then a rebound in the fall of 2010 and throughout 2011. And that's really in contrast to some of our neighbors, Omaha, Fargo, Rapid City. They actually saw traffic declines of 2 to 5% in 2011. So very encouraging. And off to a great start in 2012. We have first 3 months enplanements over 25% ahead of 2011. And in March, we set an all-time record for any month with almost 44,000 passengers departing out of the airport, or 89,000 total. And which led to a few problems that we're addressing here as we go through some of the presentation. But again, a great start. We've really seen a nice rebound in traffic. And this slide just shows where we've been in the last 6 years. Again, 2007 was the previous record high, and with the recession and due to some high airfares, I saw a lot of passengers in the area going to surrounding airports to find some lower fares. But back in 2011, we certainly rebounded nicely. Facility improvements, as Mike mentioned, we've been on a 3-year capital improvement plan that will dump about $22 million into the facility, specifically the terminal, the concourse, the public parking infrastructure, and we're well on the way to completing a lot of those projects. The ticketing area, we've added a lot of room up front. We moved all the luggage screening behind the scenes in the baggage makeup area. Concourse remodel I'll talk about in a second. The public parking lot remodel last year. And this year we're tackling the lobby restaurant, and we're developing a new south long-term parking lot. But the Concourse project, it's seemingly a never-ending project, a 2-year endeavor that should be finished this fall. It's already provided a much larger restaurant on the Concourse, past security, a full-service restaurant, a much larger bar, a really nice view of the airfield. We have, we'll be adding almost over 40% more gate seating throughout the Concourse in the gate areas. It's kind of funny as you've been through the airport over the years, how you've just gotten accustomed to seeing people stand up along the wall or sit on the floor waiting for their flight, and you just get used to that scenario. And now we'll finally be able to have seating for everybody to wait to board their flight. The project has also added a second set of restrooms, a much larger gift shop. We just opened a business lounge on the Concourse. And we're also adding 2 jet bridges onto the Concourse itself to help minimize the times that you have to either get on a flight or off a flight out on the ramp. And along with that project involves a new roof, energy efficient windows, heating and air conditioning unit. Again, last summer we completely renovated the public parking lot, the short and long-term lot, $4 million project that has provided a new entrance into the parking lot, a new exit plaza with added exit lanes, and new equipment, ticketless gate equipment to get in and out of the parking lot. We've realigned the rows of parking, which may not seem like a big thing, but in the wintertime it is. You know, now you can get out of your car and walk down a plowed row to the terminal, where in the past you're perpendicular where you had to cross rows and rows of cars with snow in between. So it's really been a huge improvement just from the layout itself. We've also added a pedestrian median in front of the building that's added additional curbside space for people to drop off and pick up passengers. And with the city's help, we've added a new traffic signal at Minnesota Avenue to make it a safer environment to get in and out of the airport itself. I mentioned we're going to renovate our lobby restaurant, re-image the restaurant, if the current term. We'll add additional seating in the restaurant downstairs. You'll have the same food choices that you had before. Also the option for a franchise, a Subway, Quiznos, Taco Bell Express, much larger bar area, and it actually will open it up. So now people will be able to sit down and eat or drink and actually be able to look out on the airfield and watch planes come and go. Project just started a few weeks ago and hope to have that wrapped up by September. And just another image of some of the seating area. It's going to have an aviation theme, really emphasizing on Joe Foss and some of his accomplishments in World War II. And I mentioned, a record month of February and March for passenger traffic, and really that coincides with really the busiest months of the year for the parking lot. We had a situation for far too long, about 4 or 5 weeks, where we actually had over 500 cars over our capacity for the parking lot. We had, it's about 25% over our capacity. Even with a temporary overflow lot, we were looking for every spare dry paved piece of ground to put cars. So really was inconvenience for a lot of people, and really we're at the level that we forecasted to be about 8 years from now. As a result, we're in the final design stages to build a new south long-term lot that will provide 800 additional long-term spaces. We'll have the capacity for a shuttle, especially in the winter months, to run a shuttle to take people from the parking lot into the terminal building. But for the rest of the year, unless it's full all year long, it should be well within walking distance, similar to our other lot. And that's just a diagram. The light blue section to the left is the ready return rental car lot. And then as you move to the right, the light gray is existing storage for rental cars. The dark gray is what we added onto that lot last summer for overflow parking. And the red is all additional parking that we'll construct this summer. Again, we'll provide the rental cars back all of their spaces that we sort of acquired this winter. And then again, the 800 permanent spaces new entrance and exit out of that parking lot. And again, the ability to have a warming shelter and a shuttle during the winter months. Mike had mentioned our interaction with the Transportation Security Administration. Throughout the entire system, they're rolling out new technology at the screening checkpoints. They, and Sioux Falls is no exception. They have swapped out 2 new X-ray units. We had 2 X-rays before. We have new technology, new 2 X-rays. In addition, they installed a new advanced imaging technology unit that's able to detect both metallic and non-metallic threat objects. There's been a lot of conversation, media coverage for this equipment over the years, but I was a little bit hesitant myself about just how much of a backlog it would have processing passengers, but it's really worked quite well, especially if you happen to have a pacemaker, any kind of artificial knees, hips. Really streamlines that screening process, where in the past those people would have to get pulled off to the side and had a physical pat down. Now they can process right through the AIT unit just as quickly as anybody else can. So, and we're really back to really the flow that we had before the equipment was installed. Certainly during a couple-week period where they were installing this equipment, we had some, and maybe to the TSA, maybe not long lines, but for what we're used to, anywhere from 50 to 30-minute wait times during some of the peak times. Now we're well within either no wait time or certain peak times it may be 8 to 10 minutes, but that's well within what we had before. Certainly we're not focused only on the terminal facility. We continue to make many improvements on the air side, the airfield itself, and most of these projects are we're assisted in funding with the FAA and their Airport Improvement Program. They fund about 90% of these eligible projects. Last fall we completed a touchdown zone light replacement, which may not seem too sexy unless you're trying to fly into the airport in low visibility or very foggy conditions. You know, these lights allow aircraft to land, you know, up to and even below a quarter-mile visibility. So it really makes a difference spring and the fall when you have a lot of fog, or in the wintertime when you have heavy snow and blowing snow where you have reduced visibility. So it's a very improvement enhancement for our airport. Mike mentioned our runway intersection replacement, which really probably be one of the most logistically challenging projects we've ever tried to accomplish at the airport, or we will accomplish. The intersection of our two runways, the concrete is about 35-year-old concrete. It needs to be replaced. And normally the normal construction time for this would be about 4 to 5 weeks. And we really can't be closed for 4 to 5 weeks. So we have developed an accelerated program, really a nonstop 24-hour operation that will close the airport 3 days and actually 6 days in August, 2 weekends from August 17th for 3 days, and then the following weekend, August 24th for 3 days. And then we have 2 weekends in September as alternate dates in case we get rained out for the initial 2. But an $8 million project instead of a $2 or $3 million project. But it's we looked at many different scenarios, and this is the least disruptive that we were able to come up with. So it is something we're going to tackle and get accomplished here later this year. And Mike mentioned also, we haven't totally ignored the general aviation segment of our operation. Currently we had one fixed base operator, Landmark Aviation. We really felt that the Sioux Falls area needed some competition. Maverick Air Center came to us with a business plan. They had everything intact except the hangar that they asked us to construct for them and lease back, similar to what we have actually done for Landmark. And we did actually build them a hangar last year, and they opened up for business in October. So now there's much more competitive pricing for aircraft fuel, and really trying to gain some of the business that's gone to some of the surrounding airports over the years. Now on to air service development. Again, we've seen some really amazing success here the last year and a half, and hope to continue to do that. But we still have some challenges ahead. Last summer, the our new Air Service Development Group commissioned a study. We typically call it a leakage study, just to determine how many people in the Sioux Falls area, and we consider that within a 90-mile drive of Sioux Falls, how many people are using our airport versus some of our neighboring airports. And this study looked at travel from April 2010 up to March of 2011, really before the impacts of Frontier Airlines had on our market. But even back then, and we've seen some improvement from a couple years previous, but we're still about 40% of our area travelers are going to other airports. Specifically, Omaha has about 28% of the traffic, Minneapolis a little over 11%, and Sioux City at 1%. Again, now if we took that snapshot after July 4th, I think these numbers would be a lot better, but there's still some work to do. Looking at airfares out of Sioux Falls, and this is really for fares I pulled up in January, to the top 25 destinations in out of Sioux Falls, and looking at the lowest available airfares, Sioux Falls has an average fare of $304 round trip, and again, this is before tax. In comparison to Minneapolis and Omaha, that's about $250 round trip, which is really a significant improvement over what it's been in the last year to 2 years. Breaking that down a little bit further, January to January comparison, 2012 to 2011, again, you can see $341 in 2011, now $304. Minneapolis and Omaha actually creeped up a little bit. But when you look at the frontier effect, I almost said Southwest, the frontier effect in the western half of the U.S. for their cities they serve out of Denver, and a substantial improvement from $332 round trip to $242 round trip. So a big improvement, and that's really due to the low fare pressure that Frontier has on the market. Similar improvement in business fares. Again, January 2011, the average round trip fare, really walk up, leave on a Tuesday, back on a Thursday, was over $800 out of Sioux Falls. Now we're in January down to about $676. But again, the western half of the U.S., the cities served by Frontier, huge improvement from $745 to below $500. So a big improvement even for the business traveler. But again, Mike, as Mike mentioned, it's really an never-ending effort to continue to work with air service development. Things we're focused on this year. Again, Frontier Airlines, just trying to make sure that people are aware, or continue to be aware of the service they provide. They have a very favorable departure time at 7 o'clock in the morning. And we just want to make sure that awareness stays out there, that they get their fair share of the business, because Delta and United, with many more flights, they match all those fares, and we just want to make sure that Frontier gets their fair share, because if they leave, we'll be right back to what some of Fargo's fares were, as you might have seen earlier. Allegiant Airlines actually going down to their annual conference next week, just to maintain the service level we have with Allegiant. They have 4 markets out of Sioux Falls, Las Vegas, Phoenix Mesa, Orlando, and Los Angeles. But we'd like them to consider service to the San Francisco area. They've opened up Oakland as a focus city with some new service to San Francisco, or I should say Oakland. But we'd like to be on that list later this year for a couple flights a week to San Francisco. Again, Tampa, St. Petersburg, even Fort Myers in the winter months. They have a lot of service to St. Petersburg in Florida, and I think that would be a nice addition to the service that we have out of Sioux Falls. The major network carriers, again, we work with them. Delta, we met with them about a month ago, trying to focus them on year-round service to their major hub in Atlanta, as well as Salt Lake. 2 weeks ago, I got back from visiting with United in their headquarters in Chicago about nonstop service with their merger with Continental. Houston is a very big hub for them, with connections to many cities in Central, South America, Caribbean, and I think would really be a nice enhancement for our travelers. And also Alaska Airlines that doesn't fly into Sioux Falls, but we have a growing number of people that every day are going to Seattle, and they have a large hub in Seattle with service up and down the West Coast, including Mexico, and we've had some conversations with them as well. And just ongoing dialogue with the Air Service Development Group, and coordinating with them their efforts. They're actually already helping with some marketing in the surrounding communities, kind of the border communities that could fly to either Minneapolis or Sioux Falls or Omaha or Sioux Falls, and they're stepping up and doing a lot of marketing in those communities, as well as some additional Frontier Airlines advertising. And Mike mentioned a few projects that we're currently engaged with several departments with the city. One is a seemingly never-ending effort to coordinate a property exchange. Back when the authority was created in 1986, a bit of a oversight perhaps, but the city actually owns about a third of Elmwood Golf Course, and we're trying to correct that with an equitable property exchange for easements over the approach zones over Elmwood, and also on the north end of that runway next to Minnesota and 60th Street, property that the water department has, just to ensure that there's nothing constructed in those areas that would impact the use of that runway. So we're pretty close to having an exchange documented that we can take care of that outstanding issue. The water department currently has a maintenance building on the south edge of our property. They have a perpetual lease to have that building on our property, but they would like to upgrade and actually expand that building. They would prefer to own that land instead of leasing it from us. So we're looking at and also another exchange with them to acquire that property in exchange for some, again, some airspace easements on a different runway. And finally, over the years, trees in Elmwood have gotten to a height where they're starting to impact the approach zone of that runway that goes over Elmwood. There's quite a few trees that need to be trimmed, some that will have to be removed, and we're looking at different alternatives, whether we can put some lighting in there so we don't have to take down trees, if we can replace some trees or modify the course that really is laid out well for the golfer and minimizes the need to have to come back down the road and worry about tree heights. So that's something that we have ongoing discussion with Dakota Golf as well as Park and Rec. And if everybody's still with me, time for questions.
Councilor Jameson.
Dan, first off, I think what you guys are doing out there is great. I mean, the progress is great. So good job, first off. A couple questions really on why did the city give the ownership to and create the authority? I know the state created or there's some law that happened. Why was that a good idea, and why does that work?
Well, the state did enact a statute that allowed for the establishment of regional airport authorities. You know, I guess at that time I can't really tell you why that decision was made, but the purpose really is, in most cases you have conflicting governmental bodies trying to run an airport. You have a city. In this case, you may have the city. You may have Lincoln County, Minnehaha County, all trying to worry about funds to fund the airport, or how the revenue is going to get used, or who's going to control it. I mean, there gets to be some political issues. So regional airport authorities were created to take the politics out of that and let the independent group run and operate the airport to avoid any issues. So
Yeah, I think Dan had, when I talked to some older timers, obviously, than I, Manfred Schamites was the city finance director at the time. And apparently there was a great deal of frustration in managing the budget and all the interactions with the federal aviation and the grant money we get at the airport. And that was, of course, flowing into the coffers of city government and so forth. The creation of the authorities is pretty common. Fargo, Minneapolis, I mean, the creation of a separate public entity was very common around the country, and you'll see a lot of them as you travel. And so just the separation, and it gives us a lot of flexibility. As Dan said, it takes any politics. I mean, when you've got so many dollars to spend, it's, well, do I do something in this part of town or this part of town? We just have one focus. It's running a safe airport, staying in compliance with the Federal Aviation Administration, TSA, et cetera. So that's what really drove it. It was really, obviously there wasn't an authority, but there was understood by the city, or Manfred Schamites and those in in control at that time, that was happening around the country to create this independent body. And they went to the legislature. The legislature created the authority at that time. And again, you see a lot of them around the country. So.
Okay, and the other follow-up to that is, you know, how did you save all that money, and where did you get it? How do you make money? Where does the...
Well, our good question, and Dan can... our previous executive director was quite conservative, a great steward of the dollars that we generate. We generate dollars through parking, landing fees. We get a slice of the car rentals and so forth. We don't receive any tax dollars from the City of Sioux Falls. We do not receive any tax dollars from the state of South Dakota, other than there's some fuel taxes that we sometimes get some assistance on. So we're independent. We're just like a city out there raising our own funds, but it's those sources. It's parking, it's a piece of the revenue. We're running that entire operation. I'm in the banking profession in my real life, and we talk about efficiency ratios in banking, you know, to see how banks are profitable. We're extremely efficient. I would put up our little form of government with 20-some full-time equivalent for what we're managing out there as one of the best run operations in the state of South Dakota. So we're pretty darn efficient. So, but the revenue comes from parking, landing fees, percentage of the concessions that operate there, rental cars. Dan, you want to?
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, that's our primary source of funds is the parking lot. Rental fees from the airlines, landing fees from the airlines, fuel flowage fees from the general aviation traffic, rental car concession fees, food concession fees. So those are our primary source of revenue. But, you know, one of 95% of the commercial airports in the country have a passenger facility charge that they use to collect revenue for capital projects. It's typically, maximum now is $4.50 per departing passenger. And certainly as we get down the road, that's certainly a source that's available to us, but we don't have a passenger facility charge. So everybody that flies out of Sioux Falls saves $4.50.
Good job.
One of the things I want to interject on the Elmwood thing, because it probably defies logic. The city gave everything to this newly established authority, and as Dan said, we need to square some things up because of land and so forth. So we simply, you know, you'd think logically the authority could just deed this back to the city. You know, they gave it to us in the first place. You know, it needs to be part of Elmwood and so on. Oh, no. FAA says you can't do that. You know, they've been using Elmwood, the city, for a period of time, so they owe you. So what we had to do is go through a whole appraisal process, establish values to make a fair and equitable exchange. Now, we don't want your money, and you don't want our money necessarily, so we just want to even this thing up. And so that's what you'll see with some things coming forward in the months ahead. It's a little convoluted and so forth. So that's you'll see more of it. And I'll be gone. I'll be history.
So
good timing.
Councilor Rolfing.
Thank you. I have a couple, three things I'd like to ask you to explain. Just briefly, can you explain this this plot of concrete you've got to take care of in 2 weeks? It's an $8 million project, and I understand it's a good deal. Mm-hmm. We've got to get it done, but can you just give me a 30-second, 1-minute deal explanation of how you're going to do that? It's got to be a monumental process.
First of all, there's no contractors in the Sioux Falls area that have done this before. We put it out for several contractors, certainly locally, but it's been done in other airports,
okay.
Up in Minneapolis and that type of thing. But you need a special paver and just a lot of resources. I mean, there's going to be, in a fairly small confined area, almost 70 trucks an hour that you're going to have a stretch where they're breaking concrete, hauling concrete out, bringing sub-base in, and pouring all within a limited amount of feet so that you can take out one runway and have it replaced, and one won't be available until the next weekend when they'll come back in and finish it. But we had to rebid it several times because nobody from outside of Sioux Falls wanted to do it. So, you know, we had to somewhat talk into one of the largest contractors in Sioux Falls, and then pair together several subs that are kind of bitter rivals, but need to come together to get the volume of manpower and trucks and equipment to be able to do this. So again, it seems like, it's just a close for a weekend, but it's really, like I said, one of the most logistically challenging projects that we'll ever try to accomplish. But alternatives were, again, be closed for over a month and do it just normal time frame. Initially, we were going to build and expand a taxi, and quite often it's done, you use an adjoining taxiway. But for us, actually, that taxiway is not quite straight, so we'd have to straighten it, widen it, and even that would have taken 3 or 4 years and over $20 million. So there really isn't the good alternative, and we're left with what we're doing now.
Yeah, we started several years ago, everything from a new airport to adding a parallel runway to, I mean, we went down the list, and as Dan says, then all of a sudden we're finding we're not getting any bidders. So, because we have some pretty stiff penalties in there, so we had to expand the period of time just to get someone to do it. So there's.
Well, we initially estimated at about $7.2 million, and it came in over $8 million, mainly because the contractor, he was buying this $500,000 paver so that he could do the project. So, yeah, it's again, the alternative is not to do anything and have either in August or in January have a blowout, and then you are shut down for an extended period of time because you can't use either runway. So. Not an ideal situation, but something needs to be done.
Next question I had was, I had a constituent stop me today, in fact, and say that they were having some trouble with the credit card checkout, where the credit card machine is kind of behind where the person that's taking it, and they all have to back up. And if there's 2 or 3 there, are you addressing that issue?
Well, I just heard about this today, because I don't know if it's the same person that the one lane that is attended typically, that for people that want to pay cash, you can also pay credit card, but kind of the whole with the new technology that we have is, if you want to pay credit card or debit card, you come in, you just swipe. You don't even need a stub, although you can get a paper stub. And then as you leave, you swipe with your debit or credit card again, and you don't have to see anybody. There is no paper. What can happen is if somebody just swipes their card when they come in, they don't get a paper ticket, and then as they leave, they want to see an attendant. Well, if they don't have a paper stub, then they can't process them, which seems kind of silly, but if they have a paper stub, they can process them. So there could be some scenarios where they want to pay credit card, they don't have a stub, when they didn't get one when they came in, they have to back up and go out through one of the other lanes that has that equipment. So, but if there's 2 or 3 people behind them, then the people behind them got to back up too. Yeah, so I actually just heard that today, which seems really stupid. So,
yeah, and that's what's happening to him.
If you don't have a stub, you should be able to check out whether you have one or not if you want to see a person.
Right.
So that's something we're going to have to address. Yep. But this person actually did have a stub, so he shouldn't have been turned away to one of the other lanes.
Yeah. Well, that was a concern of his, and he was, he had gotten in after a long all-day flight, and it was 9 o'clock at night or something like that, and the lady's out there going, back up, back up.
Yeah.
3 cars behind them, and they're going, what do you want me to do? Why?
Yeah, we need, if there's an upgrade to it or whatever, they need to be able to.
Okay. Last one, Allegiant to New York. Is that something that is being looked at either, or two?
I think they have discussed it. Certainly they like to go into an airport that is inexpensive to operate into. But the whole New York area, again, is such constrained from an air traffic standpoint. LaGuardia, they might like to go there as the most popular domestic airport. They're fairly slot constrained, so it's not something you say decide to fly into LaGuardia. So it'd have to be like White Plains or some other surrounding airport. But I haven't really, they've been focused on, they've acquired a new aircraft, the 757, getting that certified to be able to operate. And then they also have been trying for about 1.5 years to start up service to Hawaii. So they've been focused on those 2 endeavors, and they've actually are flying the 757 now on some routes, and actually have started up or will start up service soon to Hawaii. So they've been focused on that. Certainly, we've mentioned that the New York area, the Washington D.C. area, they do fly into Hagerstown, Pennsylvania, but or Hagerstown, Maryland, I should say, but nothing on the
Okay,
burner.
that's all I have. Thank you.
Other questions? If not, thank you,
Okay.
Dan and Mike.
Great.
for a
Just
very-
one thing in closing, we again appreciate the opportunity, and I know Dan will always make himself available to any of your questions. But one thing I would ask, and I know he won't, but if you can work any questions through Darren. Darren's a great liaison with all of you, and he may already know the answer because he attends our meetings. So in fairness to Dan and all the reporting that he has, again, I know he'll answer your question if you call him and so forth, but Darren may be able to help out on that and give you a quicker answer. So again, we appreciate all your support as they continue to do what they're doing, and we hope to see you at the picnic here next month. So thank you.
Again, thank you both. If there is no other business to come before, Counselor, what time do you want to start?
10 minutes, 5:10.
5:10 for the Land Use Committee meeting. This meeting is adjourned.